Hi. So today I'm going to talk about health with every size. Well, kind of. So I had a question on the community tab and somebody was saying that, is it possible to fully recover and not believe in health with every size? Because they just can't get their head around health with every size and the fact that there's evidence to show that being obese leads to a higher rate of, or is a higher chance of cancer or diabetes or hypertension or any of these things. And they can't bring themselves to get on board with the idea that being obese is healthy. First of all, I'd like to clarify health with every size. So health with every size is merely saying that a person can be healthy in any size body. Now, if a person in any size body has cancer, then obviously that person isn't healthy. It's not, health with every size is not arguing that everybody has to be obese in order to be healthy. That's not what it's saying. It's just saying that it shouldn't be assumed that a person is unhealthy just because they're in a larger body, and that the markers of health should be independently taken into account. So yes, if a person has cancer, then they may not be healthy. But it's also saying that that shouldn't automatically be blamed on their body weight. So it's saying, can we take a sort of individualistic and more objective look at health and not just immediately go for, well, you just need to lose weight as a solution. Okay, so that's really what health every size is saying. I feel that often there's a bit confusion around that, and people feel that it's saying that you have to become, that being obese is healthier than not being obese. Or it's actually just saying, let's take body size out of this and look at a person's measure of health. So yeah, there's that. Now, as far as sort of saying, well, I can't allow myself to eat without restriction because I'm afraid that if I do that, I'm going to end up in an obese body and that's going to put me at a higher risk for cancer. That is absolutely nothing to do with you trying to look out for your health. And it's absolutely everything to do with you being afraid of weight gain. That is a fear of weight gain problem. That is your brain taking something and using it as an excuse to say, see, that's why you shouldn't gain weight. Because let's look at how we do with risk. Like, okay, because my brain did the same thing. I'm telling you, my brain did the same thing. My brain would often tell you, well, you can't eat without restriction, and you can't, because what will happen is you'll gain weight and you've got higher incidence of cancer if you gain weight. And I'm actually not going to pass a judgment in this video as to whether or not I think that being in a larger body puts a person at high risk of cancer or not. I don't fucking know. I don't fucking care. I just know that restriction makes us incredibly unhealthy and incredibly unhappy. And that I do believe that we can trust our bodies to do the best thing for our health. And I actually believe that restriction is the cause of a lot of the reasons that a body might make decisions and be forced to make decisions that we can look at and say, that's not particularly healthy. So let's just say that nobody knows whether actually being in a larger body increases your risk of cancer or not. But even if it did, and even if it did marginally, look at all of the other things that increase your risk of cancer. Sunlight, going out in the sun increases your risk of cancer. Sunscreen increases your risk of cancer. Not having enough sun increases your risk of cancer because that could make you depressed or something, and being depressed and stressed pushes you at higher risk of cancer. Drinking alcohol, higher risk of cancer. Hair dye, high risk of cancer. Pretty much any beauty product, high risk of cancer. Don't worry, I don't use those, obviously, so that's not a problem for me. Probably clothes increase your risk of cancer. Breathing increases your risk of cancer. Yep, and then there's all the other things that we do. If we're actually really saying, like, I'm going to take away anything that I do in my life that increases my risk of dying of something, well, you'd never go outside, would you? You'd certainly never get in a fucking car. Like, so look at all of these things. And if this really was about you saying, I'm just unbiasedly looking out for my health, And I'm saying that there's a teeny tiny sort of correlation out there that says that being in a larger body or being obese increases my risk of cancer. So that's why I'm going to restrict for the rest of my life and continue to have an eating disorder. Because having an eating disorder, I think, increases your risk of dying from a lot of things. But, you know, that's basically kind of what you're saying. Can you look at that and then look at all of the other things in your life that have a much higher risk of you coming to harm or dying? And can you now see that this is totally about fear of weight gain? And it's actually nothing to do with you genuinely believing that you're going to become obese and you're going to develop cancer. It is everything to do with fear of weight gain, and your brain is just plucking at something, anything that it can hold up and say, there, that's the reason not to do recovery, because recovery is fucking terrifying. And so what we have to do a lot of the time in recovery is we have to not let our brains pull us down rabbit holes and make it about this thing that it's not really about. And I'm telling you that 99.9% of the time, it's always about fear of weight gain. It's always about fear of eating food and gaining weight. And that's what this is about. So when you start questioning the health at every size movement, when you start saying, oh, well, being in a larger body puts me at a higher risk of X and Y and Z and all those other things, well, I'm just going to tell you, well, I know an eating disorder can kill you and you got one of those, so why don't we handle that thing and not worry about the what ifs of the future? Within 50 years' time, you develop something that could kill you, which we're all going to do because ultimately we're all going to die. But you're going to die sooner if you have an eating disorder. I think that people always really underestimate the death rate of having an eating disorder, because it's not good for you. It's not good for you physically, and it's not good for you mentally. So if you're watching this video and you have an eating disorder, that's something that you know that you do have. And that's something that has a really pretty high mortality rate. So why don't we just deal with that thing rather than worrying about the what ifs, the what ifs, the what ifs, the what ifs, the tiny, almost insignificant percentage proportion correlation that I might get X, Y, or Z if I eat food. And let's worry about the thing that we know that you have, which is a restrictive eating disorder, which is going to give you fear of weight gain, which is why you're trying to convince yourself right now not to eat food. So that is my opinion on health of every size, risk factors, gaining weight, obesity. I can't even really remember what the question was, but I hope that you understood the answer there. Bye.